Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that.
Well, the cool thing is in the U.S. is we have these things, these appeals courts, and these appeals courts just a few days ago said that we can't ban refugees from coming to the country. This is from Reuters. A U.S. appeals court on Thursday rejected the Trump administration's effort to temporarily bar most refugees from entering the country, ruling that those who have relationships with a resettlement agency should be exempt from an executive order banning refugees. So, you thought you could have sovereignty there, Americans? You thought you could decide who comes into your country? Nice meme, fam. Turns out you can't actually have control over your borders.
Well, yeah, and that's the biggest thing is there's this idea with immigration, which is so weird that like we need immigration or we have to have immigration. I'm always so puzzled by this. It's always taken as a given that it's like, well, we can't close our borders forever. Like, what are you, a Nazi? Why the hell not? Why don't we get to determine who gets to come in here based on how they benefit our country? Why is it just a given that millions of people are pouring across our borders, taking advantage of the things that we built? And that's like, well, I mean, yeah, of course it's going to be that way. Immigration is a program that is designed, or rather should be designed, to benefit the people already in the country, not to benefit the people outside the country. And so, we're starting from a very problematic axiom to begin with that immigration is a given.
Right. And we have this weird belief in this country, a lot of people do, that our Constitution and our Bill of Rights applies to every person in the world. And so when we were talking about the so-called Muslim ban on banning people into the country, people were saying, oh, that violates freedom of religion. Violates freedom of religion. You can't do that. Well, no, because freedom of religion and Congress shall make no law doesn't apply to foreign nationals. Like, it doesn't apply to everyone in the world. In fact, the president can ban anybody they want from coming into the country. And it doesn't require, like, according to U.S. code, it does not require the approval of other branches of government. But because these judges believe they have the power to set policy, they apparently decide that it does. But no, like, immigration is not a right. You don't have a right to come in this country. There's no guarantee that just because you are a human being, you'll be allowed into the United States. It doesn't work that way. Like, well, yeah, we should be taking you only if you're going to benefit us.
And you look at other countries in the like the Middle East, for example, where it's just not even an option. Like for Saudi Arabia, I mean, forget about it. You just can't go there. Israel, if you don't pass the genetic test, you just can't move there. And I just don't get it. People are like, well, yeah, that's fine. Of course, that's national sovereignty. That's their holy land. They get to pick. Well, how come we don't get to pick? And then it goes full circle back to, well, Americans don't matter. And we don't have the same rights as everyone else. And we don't have the same authority and sovereignty as everyone else. Saudi Arabia, Israel, they could do whatever they want. They could bring in everyone they want, or they could bring in nobody. And that's fine. But in this country, everyone has a right to come here, whether they're from Madagascar or they're from Tanzania or Mexico. And it doesn't matter if they can contribute. It doesn't matter if they have a big family. It doesn't matter if they can work. That's their human right. And if you're starting from that point, you're never going to get to where you need to go.
Yeah. And according to the Israeli government here, I'm reading the Israeli immigration policy. You can't immigrate to Israel unless you are Jewish. Like you can't immigrate there. Like, just can't do it. You have to speak Hebrew. You have to waive your other citizenship. Isn't that weird that they require you to give up your other citizenships?
That's weird. I wonder why they do that.
Well, isn't it weird that we don't do that, and we have people who have cross citizenship with other certain nations across the world, certain Middle Eastern nations? Isn't that strange? Doesn't it really make you think? Yeah, so they're very strict about who can come into their country. I think we should use Israel as a model for how to establish our immigration laws.
Yeah, for a lot of things. I think a lot of things Israel does, we should do.
Yeah, like their wall that they built. I just think that's so funny that we give Israel every year, these $36 billion or $3.6 billion or whatever. $3.6 billion. And that could fund, a quite a bit of the wall if we were to use it that way. But instead, we give it to a nation that just bombed Syria again. Yes, awesome. We're subsidizing yet another foreign war. I can't wait. I love it. You know, I just love blowback, right? I just love being the piggy bank for worldwide aggression, and having that come blow back on us. That's awesome.
Yeah, me too. It's totally worth the money, right? I love to see our dollars going over so that, instead of us starting the wars, we could have our wars started for us by foreign nations. Meanwhile, we have to scrimp and save to build our own border wall. It's just, what are we doing? What are we doing anymore, James? I don't know.
It's America last. You know, the way that our country's set up is to put America last always, in every way. We're an America last country, and that's why it's such a shock to the transnational elite when someone comes along and says, hey, let's put America first. Let's pursue policies that put America first. That's why there is so much hand wringing whenever that happens, because that's not the way things are supposed to work.
Yeah, I had a debate with Aaron Bandler from Daily Wire, that little bald pot-bellied goblin, about yeah. And so we debated on Israel's foreign aid money, and he told me, I was like, well, we have to put America first. And he said, actually, America first is an anti-Semitic slogan from Charles Lindbergh 70 years ago. And I'm like, oh, so, like, anytime we advocate for our interests, that's necessarily anti-Semitic? I don't think so. Not today.
Nice try. How are these people any different from the left? Because that's exactly what the leftists say. They say, oh, America first is racist. It's bigoted. It means you're a bigot. And they bring up this Charles Lindbergh thing, who, wasn't even, I don't know that much about him, but he was a great American hero. I thought Lindbergh was a pilot, right?
Yeah. He flew around the world, I think.
Yeah, no, this guy's a great American hero, but of course he has to be an anti-Semite or some nonsense made up word like that. It's just so weird how people fall for that. How they use these like a little minutia of history to discredit totally common sense philosophies.
Yeah, it's so deliberate, and it's so obvious, what the intention is there, where with certain countries, that will come before all else. But with our country, like you said, it's America last. And it's because there's no argument for it. There's no justification for it. They cannot have that argument besides you're a white supremacist, because if they were to actually say what they actually believe, they would be saying that they hate America. They don't want America to succeed. They don't care if America succeeds. America should come last because we hate your people. And if you ever had that conversation, that is what would necessarily have to come out to justify those arguments. You ask a liberal, why can't America determine its immigration policy? Well, they'll tell you because you're white and white people are evil, because white people held slaves and you need to be punished. And, that obviously doesn't sell. That wouldn't play so well on CNN or NBC or CBS or Fox. So they have to resort to, well, that's just an anti-Semitic slogan from the 1930s, right? And, if any one of these people actually said what they felt, it would be a disaster for them. And that's why telling the truth is anathema to that movement.
Well, and that's why they get very upset when the mask slips. Like there was the commentator on CNN, I forget who it was or when it was. It was a black guy who said that something to the effect, and this is a part of the that clip that we played in the break. He says, white America is dying. We just have to find out how long it's going to take for white America to die. There is a very concerted and clear anti-white effort coming from the American left, coming from the international left, coming from the international elite that really does hate white people. They hate white Europeans and they hate European Americans. And they're pushing that, and they're pushing this guilt narrative because they want white Americans to stop having kids. Okay. This is like really what their goal is to stop. It's one of their goals, to stop white Americans from having kids, while at the same time replacing European Americans and Europeans with foreigners that are going to outbreed them and outpopulate them. So eventually white people have no countries left. So there are no more white countries. That's the goal. Until we're left with like New Zealand and Australia, I guess, will be the only like majority white countries left. That's the plan. And an essential part of that is suppressing the birth rate. And this is something you talked about that actually set some people off on Twitter. They got very angry at you when you said that, like, we need to start having kids again. Like, Americans need to start having kids.
Well, and you look at this project, which is to basically erase white people from the face of the earth, whether it's mass immigration in Europe or the mass immigration of the United States or lowering our birth rates. And, it looks like it's a very concerted, deliberate agenda here. If that were any other people in the world that you were seeing this agenda, this deliberate and premeditated assault on a people's existence, you would call that genocide. You would call that like a Holocaust or something. But when it happens to us, like, not only is it not a problem, not only is it not a genocide, not only do you get called ridiculous if you call it a genocide, but it's actually a positive good. It's actually, well, I look forward to that day. Even white people are saying this. And, I just don't understand how a sensible, sane person could say that is acceptable.
Yeah. Well, and it's not perceived as racism, right? It's not like if you were to say, like, I can't wait for an America without black people, people would justifiably call you a racist, right? Okay, it's like, oh, black people are dying out, and that's awesome. So that would get you called a racist, okay? And it would be well justified. But when someone like Michael Moore comes out and says, I can't wait for an America where without whites, I can't wait for America to be not white, like, okay, so that's not racist. Like it seems like this racism card only gets played one way. It only gets played against white people trying to defend themselves and trying to advocate for their own interests. That's what makes you a racist in modern America and in the modern society. But saying I hate Whitey, saying Whitey sucks, saying let's kill Whitey, that's not racism. That's just a beautiful free expression. That's the right side of history, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we know it. We know what's going on. We know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. I mean, that's what's going on. And you talk about it and they call you a name. Yeah. The ruse is up, basically. And, but people are waking up. People understand this. And people, I think, are starting to resist this. I think that's the new generation, which has grown up, our generation, Generation Z, which has grown up understanding and knowing nothing but this white hatred. I think we're finally rising up, and I think we will reclaim our destiny as we were always intended to.
Yeah, no, that is so true.